Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to another of my top 10 videos. Now this is a bit of a top 10 list with a difference. It's like a tag video. I have been tagged by Leo over at Geek Legion of Doom, and essentially this is a top 10 list of my favourite guilty pleasure movies, I suppose. And these are films that might have been commercial or critical failures that you actually kind of like, or they could even be films that haven't dated particularly well, might even be a bit cheesy nowadays, or not particularly well liked for whatever reason, but you like them or I like them. So it's a tag video, it's open. If you want to join in, please feel free to do so. I will leave a link in the video description if I remember, to link you to Leo's video over at Geek Legion of Doom so you can watch his video as well. Now the first one, well, strictly speaking there's 11 here, not 12, and you'll see why when you see the first one. Now the first one is a Clint Eastwood film. Now normally when you said to people what's your favourite Clint Eastwood films, most people will fire out the spaghetti westerns and Unforgiven and Dirty Harry and all $1 Million Baby, all these great films Clint Eastwood has done over the years. But nobody ever mentions, not often anyway, his Every Which Way But Loose film. And I'm including Any Which Way You Can, the sequel. Just love these films. I grew up with these films. These are possibly the first Clint Eastwood films I saw as a young boy, and I just fell in love with these films and the whole concept of them. They're absolutely crazy. Now at the time when these were released, they were critically mauled, but they were huge financial successes for the time, hence why he did a sequel. So they weren't particularly liked by critics, but audience love these films. So again, that's why I've put it on this list, because these are real guilty pleasures for me. I can just watch these anytime. I love them. So that's why they're on the list. So strictly speaking, there's 2 films there rather than 1. So that is the first guilty pleasure. Now the next one was a film that didn't do particularly well at the cinema, didn't receive good reviews when it came out, but I actually kind of like it. And it is Battleship. It's got a great cast: Taylor Kitsch, Alexander Skarsgård, Liam Neeson and Rihanna. Yes, I know. And it was directed by Peter Berg, I believe, and it was a big blockbuster type alien invasion type film based on the board game. Now when you say based on the board game, you kind of like, really? And that's the only, I think that's what lets this down. If this was a film just released and it had no association with the board game Battleships, it probably would have done better. It just doesn't work being associated with the board games. It was a bad idea, but the film itself I think is actually quite entertaining. So that's my second choice, Battleship. I know it's not a very good film, and certainly not a lot of people liked it, but I actually quite enjoy this one. Right, next, even more controversial, is Baywatch. Again, I really quite like this film, I'm not going to lie. I thought it was pretty funny. I thought the chemistry was good between the leads. Dwayne Johnson, I think, is excellent in it. And it's a pretty fun, entertaining film. The only thing I didn't like about this, and I remember reviewing it at the time, was I thought the story, if you like, and certainly the villain in the film was very, very weak. But I think there are elements of this film that really, really worked. And I certainly find it entertaining, and I don't think it was just as bad as critics made out when it was released. The next one is an 80s classic, Trance. Guilty pleasure. Tim Thomerson, and believe it or not, Helen Hunt was in this, who went on to win an Oscar for with that film she was in with Jack Nicholson. That name escapes me now, I don't know why. Now I went to the cinema initially to watch this. It was a double bill with, was it Ghoulies? I think it was Ghoulies. And I enjoyed both of them. I haven't got Ghoulies in my collection, but I've certainly got Trances, and I enjoyed them both. Really cheesy, fun film about this guy that goes back in time. He's like a bounty, a bit like Time Cop, I suppose. He goes back in time to chase down this criminal, and I just think it's a fun, entertaining film. but there's probably a lot wouldn't agree. Another one, maybe a little bit controversial, mainly because who's in it. Here Comes the Boom. I've actually done a misunderstood movie review on this. I really like this film. I know Kevin James gets a lot of hate, and you could argue the quality of films he has made have been dubious to say the least, but I think this is easily his best film that he's made. It's about a school teacher that becomes a UFC fighter to raise some money for his school. It's got Henry Winkler in it, who was the Fonz. It's got a lot of heart, this film, and it's funny, genuinely funny, and the fight scenes I think are done really, really well as well. So if you've never seen Here Comes the Boom, check it out. Didn't get a good reception when it came out. Probably a lot of people have completely ignored it because it's got Kevin James in it, but I do recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun, this film. Another one, critically mauled when it came out, and I think I've done another misunderstood movie review for this next one, and that is Grimsby. Sacha Baron Cohen, Mark Strong. I mean, it's crude as hell. Some of the gags in this are really extreme. He really does take it to another level, Sacha Baron Cohen, some of the gags in this, and you could argue some of them might not be necessary, and it did put a lot of reviewers off, some of the gags in this, but it's undeniably funny. About Sacha Baron Cohen's character, who's from Grimsby, who loses touch with his brother when they're young. He grows up, tracks him down, and it turns out his brother is like a secret agent, James Bond type secret agent, and Sacha Baron Cohen is a nobody. He's just a guy from Grimsby, common as you like, but it's very, very funny. I think this much better, I think, as well than it was critics made out, but it was a massive failure and critically mauled. Now the next one, again, I think is a classic film. It's from the late 70s, 1977, and it's a real guilty pleasure for me, this. Smokey and the Bandit. Oh, I like the second one as well, but this one is just brilliant, mainly for the sheriff. It's just unbelievable. Jackie Gleason that plays the sheriff, and also his son, who went on to play Tarzan, I believe, as well. Mike Henry, was it? Something like that. Hilarious, absolutely hilarious, some scenes in this, and the driving scenes are excellent as well. It's a lot of fun, the Smokey and the Bandit films, especially this one. Second one's not bad either, but I just love this one, and it's a real guilty pleasure for me. You can hear something outside, someone's having something delivered on a truck, so sorry about that. Another one, I've done a misunderstood movie review for this next one as well. I think it's really fun. Again, complete and utter failure and critically mauled when it came out. That is Mordecai. Johnny Depp, Gwyneth Paltrow, Ewan McGregor. It's got Jeff Goldblum in it. It's got loads of people in it, this. I think it's hilarious. I think maybe, certainly across the pond, maybe in the US, I don't think the critics quite got this, because it's very British, the humour in this. But saying that, there's probably plenty of British reviewers that hated it as well. The humour just hit home for me with this. I thought it was a brilliant character creation by Johnny Depp, who was a big fan of the books, because this film was based on a series of books, I believe, French books. I might be wrong there, but I know there were books. It's just a great fun. It's a great funny film, and it is one I do recommend checking out. I've watched this quite a lot, and it's a real guilty pleasure for me. Next one is another Burt Reynolds one. Similar vein to the last one, and that is, when was this released? Oh, I'm trying to remember. I think it was 1980. I could be wrong. Cannonball Run, the Cannonball Run. What a brilliantly fun movie this. Incredible cast. Burt Reynolds, Roger Moore, Farrah Fawcett, Dom DeLuise, as well as so many more. Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Jackie Chan. What a brilliant film. I'm sure you've all seen The Cannonball Run. It's a real guilty pleasure, and it's a film I have every intention of doing a classic film review for in someday. Brilliant. Burt Reynolds at his absolute best. Some great car scene chases, some great stunts, and just a fun film. And my last guilty pleasure is a film I went to see at the cinema in the 80s. It was a failure, and it was based on a series of books, and they were going to make more, but it didn't do well at the cinema, so that was the end of that. I think they tried to do a TV series on it in the 90s. I could be wrong. I think they did. And that is Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins, or as I knew it when I went to watch it in the cinema, Remo Unarmed and Dangerous. Fred Ward, Joel Grey, Kate Mulgrew. Great film. It's a lot of fun. Not many people know about this. It's a real guilty pleasure for me. You wouldn't get away with it nowadays because Joel Grey plays a Chinese martial arts mentor in this thing, and he's not Chinese, he's an American, I believe, so he was made up to look Chinese for the film. You would definitely not get away with that these days, and this is an Arrow release, so you lost audio for a second. It always happens that sometimes I forget to turn on the controller, so sorry about that. So you always get the reversible sleeve in these things and the booklets in the Arrows, so it's a great release, this, from Arrow, of a really fun film, and definitely a very good guilty pleasure for me, that one. So that is my 10 guilty pleasure films that are in my collection. If I was going outside my collection, there would have been others that I would have chose, things like Battle Beyond the Stars, and so many more that I would have chosen. Hooper, I love Hooper, the Burt Reynolds film. Lots and lots of other films that I would have chosen, but I don't have those in my collection, so I couldn't put them in this. So those are all my favourite guilty pleasure films that are in my collection. Consider yourself tagged if you're watching this, and have some fun and do a video showing your favourite guilty pleasure films. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you back for more reviews, more top 10 lists, more gaming content on Screen Stars very soon.